Do you want a points? I got points. I got the points for you. Good boy, sitting up pretty. Sit. Come on, get it. Come on. Yeah, that's a good boy. Yeah, I bribe him with bones or something. Guys, I had the fan on. I turned it off for this. It is over 80 in February. The year we got married, which was it was the 18th of February when we had our wedding. Yeah, we had snow that week. I am unable to again. And it was really hard. I will admit, it was really hard to keep looking around going, oh, what did I forget? But I thought, I want to do books that I wish I could read again for the first time. And I have a thirsty dog. And I try to make sure that I didn't choose books that I always talk about. Like, I wish I could read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn again for the first time, especially as an adult. I think it would be a different reading experience for me because I would get more. You know, I naturally filtered out the ugly when I was a kid. And so, like, there is a scene where Francie is almost attacked. And I'm saying that deliberately as a spoiler, so people who, that's a, you know, problem for, which usually is for me, but this was handled really well. It wasn't. I didn't really get what was going on. Now I do. There are distinct phrases that I remember from that scene that, how did it not click? I really had kind of like isolated myself, and I think the Lord did a lot of it too, because I grew up in a world where things should have been more aware. I should have been more aware of them than I was. And so, you know, that's good. That's good. I don't think there's anything wrong with innocence. Okay, I'm just saying. But I'm just going to make sure I try to stay up a little bit because the sun is coming right there and trying to blind me. Anywho, so I got up and I was ready to film, and I was like, I don't want to do anything with the hair or the faceness. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because yesterday was Sunday. Had to do the faceness for church so people don't go, are you feeling okay? Yeah, you had to do that. And then I was going to, you know, just come here so that you don't go, are you feeling okay? But you know what? Tomorrow I'm doing the chat with Chantal from the Year of Maud. We're talking about Anne of Avonlea. And I'm like, I probably should look semi-decent for this. So I have to do that tomorrow. 3 days in a row. I think I would scare my husband. I think he would think I was having a midlife crisis or something. So actually, that's hilarious. I can't believe I said that. There's no way he would notice. Which is good for me. Okay, I'm just saying. It doesn't matter what I do or do not do to myself. I always look the same to him. In his brain, I look like I did the day he met me, and that's good. Let's keep it that way. So I decided to give myself a challenge and see how many books I could get that I wish I could reread for the first time in just a minute and 30 seconds. 90 little seconds. And the only reason I gave myself more than a minute was because we have that room with the stuff in it that I have to like navigate. And I think my husband's going to help me pull that thing out this weekend. So pretty soon I might have a new thing right there. Yeah. Anywho, so with that in mind, the neighbor dog is being special, which means my dogs are about to be special. And 5, 4, no, I didn't even get to 3. I went and I pulled out as many as I could. Like I said, I tried not to do like A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, the Amanda Stevens books, right? How often do I talk about them? The Harvester, I talk about it a lot. There's a lot that I would like to be able to reread for the first time, but I really tried to do ones that I don't talk about much. And why not? So, and then like, as I was pulling one off the shelf because it was right below another one, I was like, oh, I need to grab a couple middle grades, and off I went to those. So it's kind of funny. These are in no particular order. I think these are in the order No, they're not. So I was going to say the order that I got them, but then I stuffed stuff under it, so forget that. So we're just going to go in no particular order. Yes, I talk about Mrs. Pollifax a lot, but I have to say it again. I wish I could reread these for the first time all over again. I just reread them at like the end of last year, the second half of last year, I think it was. And, you know, I read them all in a row, and it was like doing it all over again when my friend Ricky brings me this book and says, you've got to read this book. I mean, that was like 1995. So it's been, is that 30 years? 2005, 2000, yeah, 30 years. 30 years since I read them. And then, you know, I reread them all. Not that I hadn't read any. I had listened to them here and there. But and I didn't read them all at that time. I feel like there were a couple that were new and we never actually got to. But they're just so much fun. If you don't know Emily Pollifax, well, pretty much everybody on YouTube knows about Emily Pollifax these days, which makes me so happy. Because I used to talk about Emily Pollifax and people would look at me and they kind of blink and what? And I'm like, come on, the little old lady who is like depressed and she goes to the CIA because it's what she's always wanted to do. And she tries to volunteer to be an agent and she accidentally gets put on as a courier and they go ahead and keep her and then everything goes wrong. Her, and they still look at you like, that's not how it works. And I'm like, I know, who cares how it works? So yeah, if I could reread Mrs. Pollifax again, especially the third one, I love Sanko so much. I just, the third one, is it the amazing or the elusive? I don't know. The one where she goes to Bulgaria. That one is just one of my favorites. And it's because I loved Sanko. He was just the neatest character. And it's a whole lot of fun. So, yeah, Mrs. Pollifax is a definite 100% wish I could reread her again for the first time. Also, looking for middle grade? N.D. Wilson, three names. 100 Cupboards. This book is so much fun. Now, I have to admit, when I first read it, I had to really think about it for a bit because at the end, the magical world kind of intrudes on the physical world, and it felt a bit, I guess you could just say it felt a bit like too magical, like the White Witch of Narnia on steroids, maybe? Yeah. But, okay, that cover. Can you see that cover? 100 Cupboards. So this boy goes to, and I can't remember his name. Maybe I should check out this synopsis in case I just want to read it. Okay, I'm just going to read this because it tells it better than I would have. 12-year-old Henry York is going to sleep one night when he hears a bump on the attic wall above his head. It's an unfamiliar house. Henry's staying with his aunt, uncle, and 3 cousins, so he tries to ignore it. But the next night, he wakes up with bits of plaster in his hair. 2 knobs have broken through the wall, and one of them is slowly turning. Henry scrapes? Yes, he scrapes. Henry scrapes the plaster off the wall and discovers doors. 99 cupboards of all different sizes and shapes. Through one, he can hear the sound of falling rain. Through another, he sees a glowing room with a man strolling back and forth. Henry and his cousin Henrietta soon understand that these are not just cupboards. They are, in fact, portals to other worlds. And yeah, it's just such a neat book. So they're in Kansas, and his uncle has discovered that people are selling tumbleweeds on eBay to Japanese collectors, and they're making massive amounts of money. So his uncle is rounding up tumbleweeds and selling them on eBay. I mean, let's face it, they aren't going to cost much to ship. even a big box like that doesn't weigh anything. And I actually went and looked up, and yes, that kind of thing at the time that this book came out actually was selling on eBay. I'm just saying. So, yeah. Really fun book, and I do wish I could read it again for the first time, but it has been so long. I don't think I've read it since maybe between 2005 and 10. When did it come out? I bought it shortly after it came out, I'm pretty sure. So let's find out when it came out. Let's see. There's 3 in this series. Dandelion Fire and the Chestnut King. 2007. So I must have read it around, between 2005 and 2010. Gee, I actually had something right for once. Anywho, so yeah, wish I could reread that one again for the first time. N.D. Wilson is a Christian author. I would not categorize this as Christian fiction. It's more fiction with a Christian worldview. Also, this is terrible of me because, yeah. But I chose this one. This is Just Like David by Marguerite DeAngeli. I would say I wish I could discover Marguerite DeAngeli for the first time again. So she wrote so many wonderful children's books. They're just little chapter books. And this one, you have a little boy who wants to be just like his big brother David. And he tries to do all the things that David can do, and he can't do them all. And then at the end, he ends up wanting to go to school, and he ends up learning to read just like David. And it's just really sweet stories, but all of her books are like, The Hannah is about a little Quaker girl, and just Quaker life in the 1800s, about this little girl Hannah. Then there's Yanni Wondernose and Henner's Lydia. Those are both about the Amish. There's Petite Suzanne, which is about French Canadian. A Skippack School is like a school in the 1600s in America. Black Fox of Lorne, I believe, has pirates? No, that's not the pirate one, is it? Is Black Fox of Lorne the one with a murder? Maybe that's what I'm thinking about. I think that's the one with the murder. Door in the Wall, she's most famous for Door in the Wall. Copper-Toed Boots. I have Whistle for the Crossing, and I have Butter at the Old Price, which is kind of their biography or autobiography. I think my favorite of all of her books, if it's not this one, it's Up the Hill. Yeah, I think Up the Hill is probably my favorite. That takes place, I think, in Poland, and the little girl's name is Aniela. I really wanted to name, it's Angel in Polish. I really wanted to name a daughter Aniela, but my husband pointed out that it sounds like she's yelling. He was really good at ruining names for me. Gretchen, I wanted a Gretchen so bad. Number 6 daughter would have been a Gretchen, absolutely, except he's like, oh good, we'll be fetching Gretchen. Yeah, so we didn't have a Gretchen. We have Andra instead. It's like, oh well. I just wanted something Scandinavian sounding, either the Scandinavian or the German because of his mom and his dad's side of the family, right? Yeah. Andra works. Yeah, it works. I just love Gretchen. I've always loved that name. Just saying. Anywho, this is a very boring little book, right? Except it is not a boring little book. This is Charlotte Fairlie by D.E. Stevenson, and I didn't realize it until I had to grab a D.E. Stevenson, and I didn't even hesitate. I pulled this one out. This one is clearly my favorite. Charlotte Fairlie is a teacher in an all-girls school, and there's an all-boys school nearby, so they interact, and she has friends there and everything. But there's a young girl who comes to school. Her father is a Scotsman, Rory, and this girl, whose name I suddenly am blanking on, is struggling. Her mother has left her father and has gone to America, and they're all kind of grieving this change, especially the fact that mom's left, and that's okay. Sorry, darling. Goodbye. Really? Who does this to their kid? So it's just all about how she invests in this girl, and then how she invests in some of the other kids, and then how all of that ends up at the girl and Rory's castle. in Scotland. I can't remember the name of it. My friend Anne's going to kill me. Sorry, Anne, I love you. I love this book. Obviously, I chose it right? Just all of a sudden, everything, I'm just blanking on everything. But yeah, Charlotte Fairlie, great book. Clearly, someone has written, in my copy, a price. I don't know if you can see that. They clearly wrote a price at some point, and then they just cut out the price, or they cut out someone's name. I'm not sure which, but I thought that was kind of funny. But I have a few things I tabbed, because why? Since they're tabbed, why not? The girl's name is Tessa. I know you think I'm hard, exclaimed Tessa, but it makes you hard when someone you love goes away and forgets about you. I mean, you've either got to be hard or soft. There's no medium. I can forgive her for leaving me, but I can never, never forgive her for leaving Daddy. And then this was Charlotte's response. She said, it's a very bad thing to harbor resentment, Tessa. Do you understand what I mean? It won't do your mother any harm if you think unkindly about her. But it will do harm to yourself, to your own character. We should forgive people who have hurt us, not only for their sake, but because if our hearts are full of unkind feelings, it puts us wrong with God. So, yeah. That was just... So she's at church, and she's talking about how she hates mistletoe. She's like, there's something quite horrible about mistletoe. I can't bear its queer soft green stalk and its sticky berries. And if the Druids valued it, why should we use it for Christmas decorations? It doesn't seem right. You feel very strongly about it. I suppose it's silly, said Charlotte. After all, it's only a plant. But somehow it's a symbol of what I'm trying to escape from. Crackers and paper hats and eating too much rich food. I wanted... Please go on, Miss Fairlie. I wanted to find the real Christmas spirit. I hope you find it here, said the vicar with sincerity. I hope so with all my heart. I shall see that there is no mistletoe among the decorations at church. But you mustn't pay any attention. Oh, but I must, he declared, nodding as he spoke. You've given me something to think about. Perhaps you'll allow me to use your thoughts for my Christmas sermon. But I just love the fact that he likes mistletoe. He thinks it's fun, and he doesn't find it ugly or anything. But he knows that someone is coming in who is struggling with mistletoe right now, and he's like, we'll leave it out. It's just a thing, and that's what I always say about so many things like fantasy. If Harry Potter offends your sensibilities for some reason, you don't know why, and you feel like you're being crazy and stupid about it. No, if for some reason it bothers you, you should leave it out. And if I know it bothers you, I'm not going to talk about it with you. You know, I'm going to leave it out. I used to do that with my kids. When I finally let my kids read Harry Potter, I was like, you have friends whose parents have objections to this. You keep the Harry Potter discussions among friends whose parents don't care, because we're going to respect other people's consciences. This is what we do. This is the right thing to do. And so I loved that it was shown in such a simple, who cares kind of way, mistletoe. She was clearly fine with there being mistletoe in the church. She just hated it. But he was willing to defer to the weaker brother, if you will, and do what needed to be done to make her comfortable when she's seeking the Christmas spirit. I loved it so much. I just loved it so much. Yeah. Okay, this one, guys, my daughter and I talk about this book a lot, and yet I don't talk about it much on the channel. But anyway, this one, there are some, I've noticed a couple of head hopping spots. I noticed some mixed pronouns, and yeah, it's just written in a way that they don't publish today, which I thought was interesting. But we read it back in the day. This is not the one we read. I bought the hardback copies when Harvest House came out with them. But Sophie's Heart by Lori Wick. Lori Wick is hit or miss for me. I tend to either love or hate them. Basically, I tend to either love the story or it's too mushy for me. Like the Heart of the Rockies or Something of the Rockies. Two of those books I really, really love, and one of them is really sappy. Oh my gravy, Promise Me Tomorrow. The thing is crazy sappy, but I love who Rusty is. I wanted to learn to appreciate and immerse myself in children the way she did. And I learned how to. I am not rusty by any stretch when it comes to children, but I learned how to by watching her and how she interacted and all the things. So it's what Christian fiction does for me, right? But now the dogs are coming. I just cannot be interrupted today. That's just all there is to it. So anyway, this one, Sophie is, I feel like she's Czechoslovakian. And this was written back when it was still Czechoslovakia. It's either that or Polish, but I feel like it was, Czechoslovakia. Anyway, she comes over to the States and, what's the matter, Foofy? What's the matter? I know. So she comes over and she eventually ends up, it can do that too. Yeah. Right. Eventually she ends up working for this family, and they're grieving the loss of their mother/wife. And it's just the impact she has, her faith has on these people is so rich and beautiful. I'm just saying, it's so rich and beautiful. Shalise and I quote all the time, "Do not make fun of Sophie's English when Sophie is anger." It's just like, yeah, Sophie is great, though. She's got spunk. She's a feisty thing, but she's also just sweet and loving and someone to learn from. So Sophie's Heart, wish I could read it again for the first time, because it's one of Lori Wick's best. The other one they did, the hardback version, is The Princess, which I know Shalise really loved. I liked it. It was okay, but I don't have the warm. What I do love about it is, in The Princess, the main character, do not remember her name, she marries because it's kind of almost a Princess Diaries thing, where he's the heir apparent, so he has to get married, and his wife died, so he has to remarry. They gave him time to grieve, but now he has to remarry. This is political stuff here. And so he just like, find me a wife, I don't care. And so she's going into this marriage knowing she's not wanted, she's not loved, but she will serve her country this way, and she will serve a brother in Christ this way. And they barely talk, and then it just is slowly getting to know each other. But the love, and as much as she's hurting still, the love and care that she shows because it's the right thing to do was a really good lesson to me as a wife. It's like, I love my husband and I chose him, and we are best friends. And am I as solicitous of his care and concern as she is about this guy who doesn't even interact with her? I mean, come on, wait a minute, back up, So, yeah, it was really, 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 really good. But it's also not my favorite. It gets really sappy, and I'm like, eh. Anyway, so one that I do talk about a lot, and I could not leave it off. As I was walking out the back room door, I was like, yeah, I'm taking it anyway. The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Gibb. Especially just that first scene, that opening scene where she's, in the van and going to the nursing home to die. She knows she's dying. She's going there. She has nowhere else to go. She has no family. This is going to be her last days, and she just, I love the scene of her getting there, going and talking with the guy, and then getting there, and she walks into the room. She's like, no, this room will not do. I want to be able to see grass and sky and stuff. If I'm going to die, I want to have a beautiful view as I do it. But just the whole story, absolutely. There's so much I learned from this book, but really wish I could reread that first scene again. So good, so good. This is one of those Christian fiction books that this will be a classic. This will be one that people will be talking about forever. And they should. It's going to be the Not My Will of the 2050s. And if you don't know what Not My Will is, you should read it. Although I like Straight Down a Crooked Lane better. And I think I'm alone in that. Okay, we only have 2 more. So this is good. This is good. Parnassus on Wheels. by Christopher Morley. We just finished, Ashley and I just finished Thoroughfare and loved it. I just love Christopher Morley. There are things about this book. I mean, this book as in general, I prefer to the sequel. Sort of. The sequel, however, is the most quotable bookish book ever. I love it so much for its quotes, and it's got kind of a funny little twisty story. He throws these weird twists and things, and you're like, where did that come from? But in general, story-wise, this is a better story. And it's just this guy, he's got a wagon, he basically he has a mobile bookstore with a horse. And he goes up to this one farmhouse where he knows this author lives, and he's going to try to sell it to the author. But the author's sister has kind of had it with him and decides that she will spend her egg money and buy this thing. And she's out of there. And so they go off together so he can show her the ropes, and the story just goes from there. And it's awesome. If you love bookish books, you gotta read Parnassus on Wheels. And I need to thank Gretchen Louise for telling me about that one, because it feels like when I read, it was either this one or The Haunted Bookstore. I don't know. There was a chapter of the story in a compilation of short stories. Or I guess it was a compilation of short stories. But there was one chapter that I was familiar with. And I was like, wait a minute, I have read this. But I don't know. And then finally, my kids are not going to be surprised about this one, but Tasha Tudor in general. So funny story about Tasha Tudor. She has a Night Before Christmas that she illustrated. And I bought it when I found out about Tasha Tudor. I wanted her to have it. Well, my mom showed up and she saw the book and she just about went nuts, because back when I was 5 and she and my Aunt Barbara were cleaning houses, one of the houses that they were cleaning for had a copy of Tasha Tudor's Night Before Christmas, and she wanted one so bad, and she went to the bookstore and went to the library, but she thought the woman's name was Stasha instead of Tasha. And apparently that S back in the day is all it took to totally make it impossible for her to find. But strangely enough, my friend Kelly introduced me to Tasha Tudor, and I bought the book, and Mom shows up, and it only took like 22 years or something like that, but we got the book. But Becky's birthday and Becky's Christmas both are probably my favorite Tasha Tudor stories. So if you don't know about Tasha Tudor, she only died in like the early 2000s, but she lived as though she was in the 1820s. And I think she even had kind of a funny spiritualist idea that she was actually reincarnated from that time. She had some funky theology. But they lived in New England somewhere. Was it New Hampshire? Vermont? Well, they lived in New England somewhere. And they lived on a farm. She did all the farm things. She did the candles. She did the gardens. She did all the things. And her husband worked in town. They eventually divorced. He couldn't live like he was in the 1800s anymore. And but she just kept living there, by her quiet little lonesome with all her kids around her. And they had a wonderful childhood. So like Becky's birthday and Becky's Christmas, these both were, it's all this kinds of things that they did as a family for birthdays. And like my favorite thing about this one is, that they're having a party and they're doing all the things, they're making all the stuff. She goes to town to get things, and look at the illustrations, they're just beautiful. But there's all this stuff going on, and then you get to the end, so like making ice cream and licking the beaters, and she gets a bouquet of flowers because they really were loving those. Oh, look, so there's arrows and they're shooting it through a flower wreath. But then they float her birthday cake down the little creek, and she has her Yeah. It's so beautiful. And then of course the cow comes and and then, you know, go home by horse and wagon, right? So, but she made days really special in very simple ways. Well, you can go to the store and buy, you know, the things for this, and you know, we'll give you a bouquet of flowers, and we'll make ice cream, and we'll float your cake down the river. It's a bit, you're gonna shoot arrows, but we'll make the target pretty, and we'll put flowers around it to make it special. But it's still very simple stuff. It's not, you know, bounce houses and bowling alleys, and, you know, it's not these crazy expensive elaborate things that just get kids all hyped up and, you know, then it's gone. It's very simple stuff. But and Christmas is the same way, the Becky's Christmas. But they're deliberate choices, and they're done especially for this reason. And it's like in our house, I know it sounds really crazy because there's nothing simple about it, and yet there is. We do mud pie for birthdays. We go to Baskin Robbins, we buy a mud pie. One time we had to make one, can't remember why. It was good, but it's not as good as Baskin Robbins because Baskin Robbins is the flavor. All that, no matter what you do, that's what you're expecting. And, you know, but that's the only time we get mud pie. We get it on a birthday. Every birthday. And poor Kayleen, we tried twice for Kayleen's birthday when we had decided to get together for something. We were like, last minute, it's like, hey, let's turn this into her birthday. We'll surprise her. No mud pie. So then we did Lego night a couple of nights ago. Yeah, no mud pie. So we just went and got ice cream. So it's like, frustrating. But it's so rare that we don't have mud pie for somebody's birthday. So that's super cool. But it is that kind of thing. It's special, and it's only for this. There's not much in our lives. You know, I don't save steak for birthdays. If I want a steak, and now I want a steak. No, we have to eat the roast. I have to eat it up. I'm making cottage pie. That's what we're doing. No Chitona. But, you know, that's the kind of thing they did. They kept it really simple, but they kept it really sweet and really special. And this intentionality, I didn't realize it until I went to pull that book out, but that intentionality is a lot of what inspired my Willow Finley from Past Forward. That whole life that they set up there on that farm where they choose to live without electricity. And I don't even think I ever mentioned Tasha Tudor in those books. That's funny. It just never clicked that was definitely an inspiration, right? But, you know, they have electricity there. It's on in the barn, but in the house they leave it off. And they make their own soap and their own candles, and they grow their own food and all their own food. And, you know, they send the animals off to be butchered. And I mean, just the whole thing, this is what they do because they just want to live a very intentional life. They created their own wallpaper by painting their own paper, you know. And so, I mean, it's just that was the life that you know, Willow's mother wanted to live, and so she chose to live it, and that's just what they did. But yeah, those books influenced mine, and I just realized that's so fascinating to think about. Anyway, so yeah, these are just some of the books I wish I could read again for the first time. You know, there's so many more. Like I said, Harvester, Keeper of the Bees, definitely A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. A lot of mysteries. You know, really good mysteries. Once you've read them, you kind of can't read them, like Strong Poison by Dorothy Sayers. And just, there's also, I didn't bring it out, and I meant to. I don't know where it is, because I know I picked it up. But definitely the Narnia books, particularly Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I wish I could experience it the same way for the first time again with Mrs. Elkins, you know, 5 foot nothing, tiny little woman. And she had a roar that brought the house down. I mean, you shivered in your boots. I wish I could hear her read it again. Read in an Estonian accent. It's just got this extra magical world to it. It was so good. But yeah, so those are some. I could probably be here all day, but I'm not going to because I gave you some. We're gonna call it good. Just gonna call it good. But yeah, books. I wish I could read again for the first time. They're wide and varied, and I'm okay with that. I like seeing that there is a wide variety. You know, look at that. That's a pretty wide variety of books. We have spy / whatever. We have middle grade fantasy. We have a chapter book. We have English village life. We have Christian romance, technically, but it's closer to women's fiction than romance. We definitely have Christian women's fiction, just bookish book, and a children's picture book. So yeah. What about you? What book do you wish you could read? Reread for the first time. You know, probably guys say a bunch of books that I was like, oh yeah, me too. And I should be back Friday with, or Saturday, Friday. That's the day. I should be back Friday with I'm going to do my March TBR, but since I already did my, where'd it go? Where's my, oh, there it is. I already did my middle grade TBR, so there's just a few books to add. I have a small book haul here that I will probably try to do because my daughter just sent me 5 books. 2 of them are tiny, but because she sent me those, and I've got these new ones, I figure, why not? We'll probably just kind of do a dual thing there. Or I may do something totally different because why not? Meanwhile, I got to get to the store. If we're going to have cottage pie, we need potatoes, and I'm out of potatoes. So unless you want to bring over a few and have dinner with us, I got to go to the store. I'll chat with you later.